Holy Spirit who brings Christmas to us. Amen. Could you imagine being this innkeeper? I mean, here, Mary, Joseph, and God who took on a not yet born human body walk into your inn, right? Ding, the ring bell, ding, ding. What kind of place is this? This is the only inn in Bethlehem. You think they'd want our money? You think they'd want our money? Where's this innkeeper? Ding. This is nuts. Well, we just slept in the tent the last 3 days. I am not sleeping in a tent. I am 13 months pregnant. Do you see how big I am? Fine. We'll go ahead and we'll do. Okay. Ding. And then a guy comes over. Oh, another person who wants to stay in my inn. Well, yes, we have money and we would like to pay you money to stay at your inn. Well, you know what? I'm tired of you. I'm all full. Go away. Could you imagine forever? Could you imagine forever being the innkeeper who is like the villain of the Christmas story, right? So here Mary is waddling in, I was really 9 months pregnant. But when you're 9 months pregnant, whenever we are 9 months pregnant, we always feel 13 months pregnant. Can I get an amen? I know how you feel, because one time I had a really big Thanksgiving dinner, and oh boy, was I stuffed. Okay, that was awesome. If you were more awake, if it was less cold. All right. So he is forever the villain of the Christmas story. I mean, everybody else is a hero, right? Except for Herod, right? But everybody else is a hero. The shepherds, they're like, hey, look at your baby. The wise men, they're like, hey, here's some gifts, right? We're worshiping, right? Everyone else is a hero. Whoever had this barn, whoever had this stable that had, the animal, and he like cleared out the corn or whatever they were eating, so that way you could put baby God there, right? Even that person's a hero. But this innkeeper, we don't serve your kind here, right? Like Star Wars at the Mos Eisley bar. We don't serve your kind here, right? Pregnant women are messy, and then do I charge you for 2? Do I charge you for 3? I mean, how much do I charge you, right? And it's just, we don't like little kids because they make noise. Isn't that like the worst opinion ever? By the way, yesterday at the funeral, there was somebody who had a baby, and they said, "We're going to stand in the back. We're going to stand in the back of the bus. We're going to stand in the back because we don't want our kiddo to distract people." And I said, honestly, I would love to put you in the front pew. And then when your kiddo makes little noises, I'm going to tell them how great it is to be a child and how great it is to be loved by the church. And that, if you don't like noisy kids, there are other churches filled with people who don't have kids. And they're like, well, we just don't want. I said, how about our calming room? And afterwards they came over and they were like, thank you so much for letting us come in here with our kid. How sad that someone thinks it's weird that a church would welcome kids. Thank you for not being that church. So back to this. So this innkeeper is like the villain forever. Now, I don't know why this innkeeper did not have space for a exhausted husband, a 13-month pregnant woman, and a not yet born baby. I have no idea what was wrong with him. But I do know he did not, ready for it? He did not make space for grace. Have you noticed how hard it is to make space for grace? Have you noticed how hard it is? I'm certain you have, because you live in this world and there is so many other options. But if we don't make space for grace, guess what? We miss out. Yesterday, we had an incredible memorial. Gloria Phillips, this is the mother of Kim Dent, our church secretary and Sunday school director of Sunday school. And she is an awesome person. She is the person who answers the phone, and she is just a delight and a joy. Her mom has finally been blessed to enter into glory after being a lifelong member here, third generation, lifelong member right here at Zion. She got baptized just below us, and she got married at this altar before they had air conditioning. Whew, that's an accomplishment. Of course, back then they didn't really know they had air conditioning. That was a thing. But now that we have it, don't we love it? So she entered glory. And our parking lot was so full. As the person leading the memorial, all I wanted to do was drink my peppermint mocha, my warm peppermint mocha from downstairs, and just walk around and say hi to people and kind of catch up on what's been going on in the lives of people that I haven't seen in a while. And I didn't even have my jacket on, which actually wasn't all that bad. But I ended up like navigating traffic So I'm out there navigating like the parking lot because everybody else is in here, right? And I'm out there, I'm like, okay, well, if not me, then who? And so then I'm out there, I'm navigating traffic, and I'm having the exact same conversation. Car after car. Nope, the lot's full, but you can park next door. We got clearance from EFG, but if you don't have parking lot there, then there's other spots, so please don't take the last spot in the parking lot. What? The parking lot's already full, but if you park next door at EFG or another parking lot, but please don't take the last spot or last two spots in somebody's parking lot. There's no parking? There was no space. I was thinking, just park on Dorset. I don't know. The grass was even full. It was fantastic. And I suspect the innkeeper was just like me. Could you imagine if Mary and Joseph and baby Jesus, not yet born, pulled up? What was I going to say? We don't have space. And then I'm that guy. I'm that guy who doesn't make space for grace. I mean, if I knew it was Mary and Joseph and baby Jesus, I would have come in here and said, I will buy anybody's car for the next 10 minutes, just like $100. Let me just move your car, and I'll even bring it back. I'll even bring it back because we need to make space for Jesus. And if Jesus came in, we should make space for Jesus, right? Yes, no? We should make space for Jesus. Could you imagine being that person who doesn't have space for Jesus? Oh, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy that tells Jesus, move along, move along, move along. Go ahead, move along, move along. Well, where do I put my car? I don't know, but ain't my problem, Jesus. How terrible. Because if Jesus pulled up, that what's getting out of that car is the answer to absolutely everything, right? You know that if Jesus drives up and says, can I park here? Wouldn't you give him your favorite parking spot? Wouldn't you offer to park the car for him? I mean, wouldn't you? If Jesus pulled up and said, I just want to get out and pour all that I am into your life. Man, but the problem is Jesus does that constantly rolls up and says to you, you got space? But if we don't make space for grace, we miss out. It's just reality. So I don't know what was going on with this innkeeper. Maybe he was busy. You're probably busy. And if I said, hey, can we come and hang out? Or, can I come? You probably would already have something that you're going to do. Now, you're probably not going to say, oh, that's when I watch SpongeBob SquarePants. Or, oh, that's when I'm watching old episodes of Ren and Stimpy. You're probably not saying, how many of you are old enough to know Ren and Stimpy? Yeah, stay away from electric fences. And that's forever on the internet live stream. How about that? You're probably not going to say, oh, that's when I'm going to binge watch whatever it is on Netflix, right? You probably won't even tell me what TV show you're watching because there are a lot of TV shows out there that are not pastor friendly. And if they're not pastor friendly, we don't tell pastor about it. No, that's not Christian friendly, right? So maybe you're busy. Maybe you're busy because, well, you got to get to work. You got to go grocery shopping. You've got to go do that thing. You got to go visit that person. You got to watch that thing on TV. That's when you pack your stuff for the next day. That's when you work on whatever that project is. Maybe you're just so busy. But if you don't make space for grace, you're missing out on the one person who is the answer to all your busyness. When we walk closely with God, all of a sudden, stuff that seems so important isn't. All of a sudden, all that stuff that we get so wrapped up in, that we feel is so important, when we get that big picture perspective, we start to realize, you know what? I don't have to stay up till midnight playing that game or watching that show. I guess I don't have to go do that thing. So maybe the innkeeper was busy. Whatever it was, he didn't make space for grace, and he missed out. How cool would that be? There is the regular room. There is the executive suite. There is the presidential suite. Could you imagine being able to be the only person in the world who has the divinity suite, the birthplace of God? But he missed out. He missed out. You might struggle to make space because, be honest, we're all kind of lazy. So I have a gym membership, which means you don't own the weights, you rent them. The reason why I rent my weights is because I've tried owning them before. My mom and dad, and my mom is here. My mom came in from San Antonio, Texas, just to hear this sermon. Are we doing okay so far, Mom? Am I still getting a 100% on the momometer? All right. But we had this gym when I was a kid. It was in the garage, and it had everything that I needed at that time, right? Because I wasn't this, right? So it had everything that I needed at that time. And you know what? I'm just going to get to it after school. I'm not going to do it before school. I want to sleep in because, I was playing video games till 3 a.m. So I don't have time before school. So I'll just do it as soon as I get home from school. Okay, well, I'm feeling a little tired right now. I'll do it right after homework. Oh, okay, well, it's almost dinner time. We only have like an hour until dinner, so I can't possibly do a whole workout, John, right? In just an hour, right? So I'll just do it after dinner when, of course, you feel like it, after you've had all that delicious food. Well, I don't really feel like it now, but right before bedtime. And then, what happens? The game starts up, or, the show starts, or you're starting to feel tired, or anything else happens. And you're like, you know what? I'll just do twice as hard tomorrow morning. Well, by day 5, you can't do the value of 5 workouts. So then you know what happen? You become a skipper. You become a skipper. So I wanted the benefits, but I just kept putting it off because anything else became important. The same thing happens with God. If we put it off, and by putting it off, it means like skipping church. It means like not just opening up the Bible. It means not looking at a devotional. It means not listening to like a Christian podcast or maybe like a Christian summary of scriptures, which you can get for free now on the internet. It means not looking at portals of prayer. It means not looking at hopeful living. It means not talking to God. It means not just having 5 minutes to just kind of, look at a text that we read on Sunday, or just having a conversation with God and just putting everything else on pause. Intentional time with God, just 5 minutes a day at least. We can always put it off. We can always put it off. But now, please be honest. Be honest on this one. I want you to look around on this because we're all going to be honest. If someone's hand is down, it's because they're a liar. Raise your hand if you had enough time to watch an hour of TV in the last 4 days. Man, but 5 minutes, right? So I don't know. Maybe the innkeeper missed out because he was too lazy to get around to cleaning out that room, right? Maybe he had enough room, but there was like storage room. How many of you have like a junk corner or junk room in your house, right? Maybe he just was too lazy to get around to cleaning that space out. So then when another group of people, when 2.5, right, really 3, when one and a double wide person walk in and he says, do you have space? And he says, no, I don't have space. Maybe he didn't make space for grace. Maybe he couldn't make space for grace because he was too lazy to get around to cleaning out that storage area. That would have been a perfect space for just God. Because at that time, God was very small. Aren't little newborn babies so tiny? How much space could a little tiny newborn baby Jesus take up? So I don't know. Maybe he was too busy. Fake busy. Maybe he was too lazy because he didn't really recognize the value. But when he told them no, when he did not make space for grace, he missed out. There's a third thing that I think might possibly be a reason why we don't really make space for grace. And that's because, honestly, sometimes we're kind of cheap. If it's free, it's for me. You might have to spend 15 minutes looking for a good Christian book. You might actually say to pastor, hey, can I get a book? Yeah, absolutely. Here's like 3 that I would encourage you to look at. And it might be $12. But it's free? That Netflix subscription you already pay for. That HBO Max subscription you already pay for. That Hulu, whatever else you already pay for. Maybe that's what happened with the innkeeper. Maybe there's a room or 3 that wasn't up to snuff, and so he didn't quite get that toilet running. Maybe he didn't quite get that electrical running. Maybe he never actually got around to fixing up that window. And so when 3 people, one being God, comes in and says, do you have space? He had no space. We will have no space if we do not make space for grace. And when we don't make space for grace, we miss out. When you look at what Jesus did every step of his path, he never stiff-armed anybody. When Nicodemus risked his entire professional future and in his career to go have a conversation with Jesus. He left with so much more than he walked in that night. When a woman walked out just to get water and then had this conversation with Jesus in John 4, she came back with so much more than water. She even left her jug there and ran back to the village and came back, and the whole village came out to hear Jesus for days. When Jesus makes himself available, which is all the time, when Jesus is making himself available to us, he always makes it worth it. Naked Jesus walked up to a cross and came back on the third day with your salvation and the guarantee of your eternity. That's pretty valuable for a guy with no pockets. Jesus, right now, is coming to you, asking you, and far beneath what he should do, begging you to make space for grace. If you don't intentionally make space for grace, you miss out. It doesn't matter if it's because you're busy. It doesn't matter if it's because you're lazy. It doesn't matter if it's because you're cheap. When we don't make space for grace, we miss out. Making space for grace is so easy. It could be just putting your bulletin on your dining room table. And then you make sure before you go to bed that night, you read at least one of the 3 Bible texts that we looked at today. It could be finally following a Christian podcast, which is free. It could be finding a couple of congregations that you can listen to their sermons and also listen to those during the week. It could be texting me and saying, hey, you know me? What would be a good book? It could be just having 5 minutes at the beginning of your day, because you know it won't fit in the end. At the beginning of your day, just to sit there and just think and just have a conversation with God. It could be listening to Joy FM a little more or a little at all instead of just Casey or any of the other stations. It could be so many things. But when you make space for grace, you will no longer be missing out. At the end of every one of our sermons, we give each other a little bit of opportunity to have our individual conversations with God. This is your time. This is your moment with God.